Thank you very much. Thanks also for showing me that film of how to make a good presentation. 2 hours before the speech, I had to go home and change my clothes and find out a new topic. But, here we are. I'm going to talk about the 3D internet. I'm going to explain what it is, show you some future outlook, and some projects that we're doing right now, actually. So, 3D films has been around for as long as I can remember. And there's always been people saying it's not going to take off. It's always going to stay down here. But with films like James Cameron's Avatar, I think I'm pretty sure that 3D movies are going to have some kind of future. It's pretty certain about that. And if the claim for 3D films is it's going to have a future for 3D internet, the claim is rather, it's also that it's going to have some kind of future, but rather, more importantly, it's already here. Anybody knows what I'm talking about? This is an illustration of the 3D internet. It's composed of 3 main areas. The online games, also called massive multiplayer online games, virtual worlds, and 3D social networks. And the online games, of course, are part of the gaming industry. It's a very intriguing place. It's been growing tremendously the last few years. It's had an annual growth rate of about 17%. And with that rate, it's going to hit a market size of $60 billion in 2012 already. So, Anders, I don't know where you are, but it looks very good for your graphic cards. The virtual worlds, you can say, they are great because you can do anything in there, or they stink because there's nothing to do. And they're both statements are right. And the 3D social networks, basically, they're 3D chat rooms, populated by kids and teens all over the world. They're tremendously popular. Millions and millions of users. Heavy growth rate. Between the virtual worlds and the social networks, it's hard to say which is what these days. They're very similar. And they have about a market size of about 5 billion US today. It's going to have about 10 billion in a couple of years. So this is a very interesting place to be in. A few important statements to make about these worlds that make out the 3D internet is that, as I already said, there's millions and millions of people inside here. Everyone you see around is someone else sitting in front of the computer, somewhere else in the world, real time. Next thing is that there's a tremendous amount of money running around in these worlds. They all have different business models, and they all have different types of currencies. But most of them have some kind of currency inside the world where you use to pay for virtual items, activities, entrance fees, whatever it may be. And where it differs is whether you can take the money out or not. And just to give you an example, Entropia Universe, which is one of them, which I represent, had a real economy. It has a real economy, a real cash economy, as we say, because you can take the money out. It's completely transferable. So that economy had a size of 422 million US dollars last year. That was the total sum of transactions inside the game, real money. That's just one world. And that's the equivalent of a small African country in terms of their gross national product. So, last very important point to make is that these worlds are today, and at least in a very near future, full-fledged media platforms. They can incorporate any traditional media. So you can have television, broadcasting, all kinds of sound and video in here. so they can basically be the platform for all other media. Very powerful things. On top of that, you have the interactivity. You have an avatar, which is your browser on the 3D internet. This is your alter ego. It's your persona. It's your brain in here. It knows what you know, and sometimes even more, because it's equipped with things like characteristics, skill sets, attributes that you can use in here, that you can excel in, and that is very useful in here. Also equipped with a lot of virtual items that has a functionality inside here, which makes it valuable. Needless to say, the avatar is extremely important to these people who are in these worlds. They spend a lot of money on them. So the title was that I was going to indicated I was going to talk about some progress in education and learning for as well as health factors for use of the 3D internet. Well, looking at the games, educational games has been around for almost as long as games for entertainment. They have not been so successful as you may wish or thought, and there are many reasons for that. One of the reasons is because they call it serious games, and it's not I don't think it's the most appealing title for a kid, but that's what they're called. And also another aspect is that they have been produced for the teachers and the parents rather than for the kids. So it takes 5 minutes. Teachers and parents think it's great, they're going to learn while they play. And the kids sit down, and after 5 minutes, they figure out that it's made for learning. So I don't think so. So there are, of course, progress in this area. I should mention also that serious games has worked very well for the professionals, the people who wants to learn. The people are motivated by career steps. They are going to learn anyway. They might as well play games instead of reading. So that's where it's has worked tremendously well. And what you see in front of you is what is it? It's an illustration of a very interesting principle. The picture is from Entropia Universe, but we have altered it with putting a math number on the stomach of the monster, just to illustrate the point. Some other games are actually doing this. But what they've done is that they still let you kill monsters, which is what you want. But you have to figure out the math number first. So the faster you do that, the more accurate, harder your punch is going to be. And I think it's a very interesting thing that you don't take the fun out, you just add something on top of it that makes you learn, or has connections to learning anyway. I always get phone calls from universities and schools saying that, hey, can we get a 3D classroom that we can let the kids into? We want all the functionality of a real classroom. Yeah, of course we can do that, but we're not going to do that. Why would we? Kids don't even want to go into real classrooms, so why would they go into a virtual classroom? They are learning inside the world in other ways, and that's what you should look at. We all know that NASA is conducting activities outside in space. What many don't know is that they also have kind of a responsibility, or at least they play a very strong role in interesting the American youth for science. They have done so for a long time. They're quite good at it. And they have a problem. Same problem we all do have in the Western world when it comes to teens that are more interested at a future within media than one within science. And they thought about that, and they thought, we're going to meet the kids and teens where they are, inside the games. So they're going to make an online game. They proclaimed this 2 years ago. We followed that development, and about 1 year ago, European Space Agency came up with a similar request. They said, we're interested in this. How can European Space Agency learn from the gaming industry in terms of promoting ourselves, in terms of promoting engineership and learning about science? They weren't ready to make a game, but they wanted to start out with exploring the potential. So we helped them out. We have worked with them for about 9 months now. What you're going to see here is a film that is produced out of a 3D world that we built for the European Space Agency that they can use to try out the potential and see what this type of environment would do for learning. And what you're seeing is a 3D model of made out of satellite images of one of the moons of Jupiter. It's called Europa. And the scenario is set for the not so distant future. And you have actually why it's going like this a little bit is because you're not supposed to make films out of this world. It's not an animation tool. It's a real virtual world. So that's why it's a little stuck sometimes. But you have all these people. Everyone you see in front of you here are students playing a character somewhere in the world. And with this kind of graphics and physics, you can basically implement the current factors that you are. I mean, you have the gravity factors, the friction, everything that would be on that moon. So they would learn just by entering here what it is like to be there. And why this works better, I hope at least, than these games I told you about that has failed, is because you have all your friends in here. You can have the teacher in here with the students. Here is, for example, an instructor giving a mission out, asking some questions to the kids. They're not kids, they're university students, actually. Can be kids too, but here she's asking something in voice, so everybody can hear it. It's like a voice chat. And they're supposed to answer some questions to know where they are in their knowledge about this particular thing. This poor guy in there, blue there, he was actually not doing so well. But yeah, I mean, this is to illustrate the capacity of what is possible today. And we can set any scenario basically. We don't have to be in space, which I'm going to show you in a little bit. This was very well accepted by the European Space Agency. They thought that this was something that they would like to consider for the future. So we hope that we can continue working with them. And the full-length movie is on YouTube if anybody's interested. Yeah, as I said, like the Matrix, where they say we can load anything. That's where we are now. We can load anything into these worlds. We can build anything, we can portray anything, we can take the creative ideas, which I think this is, creating a new sport, basically, that is using gravity to change everything about rugby into Sugby. Moving on to the more medical and health related aspects of this area. it's always been very interesting for cartoons and children programs to portray the inside of the body. I know a lot of cartoons that I watched when I was little about this, and it was also very exciting to move around in the body. It's always also been a Hollywood theme where you shrink people and they go inside the body and so on. That can be done as well, of course. And then we end up in a very interesting situation where you can play out scenarios in different parts of the body. You can shrink the avatar into a microscopic size that can explore the insides of the body for a lot of different purposes. You can move on and you can think about the potential for people to learn about their own body, and also doctors can communicate to patients what's wrong and how it looks and what's going on there. And we already seen a parallel here of much more advanced research from Anders Zinnemann. But this is kind of going in a parallel direction, but you're adding people inside these worlds as well. Computer games are today used for rehabilitation of stroke. Actually, here in Gothenburg, there are leaders of this. And this short film, where I've taken the sound off as well, just to, well, it's not so fitting with what was on there. But anyway, this woman, she had a stroke, and this film is just exploring the potential of going one more step further into the process of using games for coming back to a normal life. Stroke is very, of course, bad in any way, but it's very tough to get back from a stroke that has hit you really hard. And it's tough, motivation goes down, and you got to do the traditional training, and here in Gothenburg you can also do what's called play yourself well, which is a computer-based, clinical-based, computer-based learning. You do this in clinics, which is great because it's much more motivating than squeezing on a ball. But it's very expensive. You got to take the student, the patient out of their comfort on their own home and transport them to a clinic. So it's very expensive and has a lot of backdraws. So what you want to do is try to get the rehabilitation with computers in their homes, so they can sit at home. They can do this at home, but right now they got to do the clinical rehab for computer-based rehab at the hospital or at special centers. So they've already come a long way, but as a third step here, the very interesting potential lies in getting people like her onto the 3D internet or into the virtual worlds. Because you can do that at your home, for sure. There's a lot of different other positive outlooks with it, because what these people need is to get the confidence to get back to a social life where they can go outside the door and do the stuff that they used to do. For example, go to art exhibitions. Now she can do that without, leaving her home. And she can also get a character that is a goal image for herself, so that she can have a goal of what she wants to become in terms of a person that can do these things again, that the avatar can do. So she has, for example, if the avatar is dancing, she can try to do the moves, the same moves. Yeah, she likes it. And, these are connected worlds, so she can meet her doctor in here, her coach. She can meet her family members who wants to help her, but they're not in the same city. So, she can explore a lot of things that she can't really do, but now she actually can do it again. And that's something, that project hasn't started. That was a preview of something that we're actually trying really hard to kick off. And I think I am going to end there. Thank you very much.